this is a really, really interesting video, one that is very, very close to my heart. So one of the best ways I use astrology, and whether it's with myself or with clients, is by using the philosophy that's inherent in astrology. I'm going to break down by using the 6 astrological axes, which are the 6 pairs of opposite signs, to make any decision. So what do I mean by this? Let's go through each axis and give different life situations and show how when anything comes up in life, you can really, by understanding the archetypes that are the 12 signs, and by understanding that each, Aries, Libra, it's the same energy but opposite manifestation, by understanding how to balance this out and how to look at a life situation. It could be anything: romantic, work, family, you name it, right? Any kind of situation, friendships, big picture life direction, right? Where you can look at your decision and analyze it from these. I do this with my clients, right? So first, let's get into, let's start with, a brief intro. Okay, so in astrology, as you guys probably know, you have 12 signs, right? Each sign, so Aries, Libra, Taurus, Scorpio, right? Gemini, Sagittarius, Cancer, Capricorn, Leo, Aquarius, Virgo, Pisces. Those are the 6 axes. And each of them might sound like a very, very different sign, right? Like when you think of I don't know, I guess some of them sound more similar, but when you think of Cancer, you might not think of Capricorn right away. When you think of Aries, you might not think of Libra. But what you'll see is that they're actually the same energy, just a opposite manifestation. So it's almost like it's on a spectrum, right? Where it's or on a line with, on one side you have, let's say, Aries, and then Libra. And this is very, very important. This is not about whether you have the signs in your chart or not. Yes, of course, if you have a lot of energies of certain axes in your natal chart, or during certain transits or progressions or whatever, it's going to be more important for you. But this is more philosophical. This is more about, I don't have to have any of these energies in my chart, but I can still understand the dynamics at play and use what I'm about to talk about to help with decisions. So where is the time thing? Okay. So anyways, let's start with Aries, Libra, right? So, and you guys will get what I mean in a sec. So Aries, Libra is really the self, which is Aries, versus other. Now you can also think about the first house Aries, 7th house Libra. So there's so many situations in life where a lot of times this one is very relational, right? Where it's the question is, am I going to put myself first or am I going to compromise, right? Now, there's often people who will people please and who will have a lot of anxiety come up around disappointing other people, that they'll put themselves down in order to make the other person happy. So for someone like that, they would need to lean into their Aries energy more, right? And once again, it's not about you not having this energy in your chart. It's about understanding that Aries is the planet of, Mars. It's ruled by Mars, the planet of war. It's the most assertive, fiery sign. Libra is the diplomat. Libra is considerate of everything and can get anxiety when it sees from all the different perspectives. So it's not about just going from Libra to Aries. That's when you need to be more assertive, when you need to speak up for yourself, when you need to be okay with just saying the thing and being decisive, right? And worrying about what's going to happen after. Aries has that childlike energy where it just does the thing. Not all Aries, but it's a first sign. So it just does the thing and then worries about the aftermath after. Now, there's a lot of times, because of that, a lot of times there can be fears that hold people back, right? And it can even be, sorry, I'm trying to get comfortable on this new chair. It can be in relationships. A lot of people have a fear of leaving certain relationships or friendships or whatever, because they don't feel like they're strong enough on their own. They don't feel like so the Aries is about regaining your independence. It's about finding that spark of life, that fire, that movement, that first, I'm just doing this shit, I'm just doing it, whatever. So then to go from Libra to Aries, right? Libra, like I said, it's a partnership, harmony, peace, fairness. So Libra, is about really, it's also leadership in a more detached, or in a more subtle way, right? It's about really understanding everyone's perspective and taking everyone's perspective and weighing them all, and then moving from that place, right? So if someone is too Aries, right? So if someone's too far on the Aries side, they might not be thinking about the needs of other people. They might not be thinking about, a nice way of saying a certain thing would be, or how they can still get to their goal by having more tact, by having more diplomacy, and in the context of relationships, by, you know, being two Aries is this the person who like isn't willing to compromise at all, you know? So, you know, it's like being able to consider other people, and it's just that balance. So in different life situations, like, you know, obviously like like what I was talking about first, it could be like, you know, where you're putting people above yourself, but then also it's like, okay, like sometimes, you know, you have to really think about, you know, okay, how is this other person, this other party, like how are they seeing me, or how are they seeing the situation? What is it like, you know, walking a mile in their shoes, right? And then just in the context of relationships, like, you know, Libra is a very relational sign, as I keep saying. So, you know, what is the balance between independence and sort of individuation and doing my own thing, and relationships, relating, etc., right? Like what's the right balance I want to, you know, one wants to have. Now, this one comes up a lot in relationships because a lot of people, you know, either get in relationships where they're very codependent, or where they feel like, you know, like I said, like they don't really exist, or like they feel less, like it's almost like they need the relationship or the other person to feel good, you know, like not all the time with everyone. I'm just saying it happens. That's like a common place for this axis to come. So it's like, but really it's about balancing it, you know. So it's like, okay, maybe I need to spend more time on my own. Maybe I need to kind of like still live my life, right? Which has a lot in common with the Aquarius Leo axis that we'll talk about in a sec. But you know, it's really like the balancing of autonomy with connection, and knowing that, like, you know, what happens. I just made a video about this. Is like when you're too far in a relationship, or when you're so in a relationship, you're living in the composite chart, right? Because the composite chart is the energetic baby that's created when you're with any human. So you can get really, really, really comfortable with a composite chart, you know, or like being in that in the energetic baby that's formed within you and someone else. And what happens, and I talked about this in an Instagram video yesterday, is that when something happens, or not as much as something necessarily happening, but you're only getting one person's worldview, you know, and you're becoming kind of one with that person and sort of losing your own identity. Now, everyone has a different style of relating, but Aries would be like, okay, well, I still want to have, you know, I still don't want to forget the core reason, or the core purpose of my life, you know, the core, like my core self, right? I still want to be able to move forward, and you know, obviously relationships change people, but I still want to keep my identity and still grow as an individual, not just as as how I am in the couple. So, yeah, and as I was saying, when you're always in the composite, I think that also you don't really get life perspectives. Like, if you're just only around one person, you probably are only having their worldview, their kind of conversations, you know, their like there's not, you're not able to like do the Gemini Sagittarius. This will all make sense in a sec, but you're not able to do the thing where you go out and you have like a lot more data, more diverse data on different, you know, on just anything in life, right? So you're kind of just stuck to this one person, and then I feel like it probably takes away from something. I know people have karma, and I know a lot of people do mostly see one person. Like my best friend actually is like, you know, married, and that's very much his style. And like I think that there are people where it does kind of work. You know, it's another thing where it's just kind of, you follow it. You know, you follow it however it works for you, and you do have certain periods of life that are going to be more isolatory, and other ones that are going to be way more relationship based, right? But still, I think the principle here is that one should balance out, you know, self with other. And I think that these are very divine teachings as well, right? So next we'll do Taurus, Scorpio. So Taurus, Scorpio. So obviously Taurus is about stability. You know, it's about the present moment, it's about comfort. And Scorpio is about transformation, it's about depth, intimacy. So a big thing here is that Scorpio wants to, so if someone is too far in the Taurus, that could be like resisting change. That could be like someone who is willing to kind of just like go through life and do the same thing day after day after day, being in the same life circumstances, the same friends, the same, you know, I always imagine like it's a person that kind of like, you know, like things are good, so they want to take risks that could lead them to like a higher spiritual growth, but they're risky, you know, and the risks are scary. So Scorpio is about fully diving into that risk. Now, if one, you know, you also have to think about Taurus represents the present, it represents, you know, pure earth energy and happiness, right? So that's not obviously Venus, but like it's very earth energy to me. So if you're very Scorpio, that's Pluto. That's about death, rebirth, transformation. It's that shadow work. It's like going within the psyche, and it can be very, you know, it's very needed for people, right? But then it can be very tiring. So for people who are too Scorpio, that could be people who have this like automatic obsession with, you know, with drama, or with always, like it could be the person who's like always self-improving. Okay, don't hear me wrong. Like, you know, like I feel like there's something sometimes with people with when you're constantly doing self-improvement stuff, which is good, you're sort of admitting that you're never like, you know, self-improvement, that you need to improve, right? And it kind of has this like this future you know, element to it, right? Like one day, like through this, I will get to this version of myself. Taurus is like accepting who you are in that moment. It's like Buddhism. It's like Buddha under the tree. Like I am, you know, everything here. It's like smelling the it's like using your senses, smelling the roses, and getting out of your head, getting out of that intense scorpionic, like, you know, like too much Scorpio can just be someone who's like psychologically just like stressed, you know, and there's just a lot of control issues, and you know, both of these signs do deal with being possessive and whatnot. But the point is that one of them is water, Pluto, very psychological, which can become very complex in the mind and in the heart and the psyche. The other one is just about just surrender, in the sense of like, you know, second Taurus is also about self-esteem, and also about being grounded in yourself and being able to be determined, but also about being able to sit in your own energy, be happy with what is, and it represents just you doing it alone. Scorpio, there's a very relational element to it, right? So sometimes you see this with like people's charts who have like South Node, you know, or like the nodes here, where it's like there's karma around, you know, all like a fear of like kind of doing the thing on their own, you know, and then if it's like South Node Taurus, obviously North Node Scorpio, that's one of the tougher ones, because that person is being brought to experience, you know, usually through crisis, spiritual growth, or, you know, intense spiritual maturation that perhaps in the past they pushed themselves away from. So, yeah, I think this one is really about, what do I hold on to? You know, what's worth holding on to? I think of it like there's like a Taurus can sometimes have like you know, in some ways, right? And this is not how I'm saying like Taurus are. It's just like one manifestation. It can be almost like a spiritual or even like hoarding energy, and it can be really, really hard to let go, right? Because there's so much comfort when you think about Taurus ruling the senses and being so present and being so content, right? That's why Taurus moon is exalted. You can see why it would be harder for them and to let go of these things. And then Scorpio is the opposite. Scorpio is literally like from a Buddhist perspective, it's like this is like about like completely letting go, you know, complete surrender, complete just like the goal of it. Obviously, like it's tough for Scorpio placements to let go of control, and that's like one of the biggest gain is to find power internally, not try to control other people externally. But the point is that you're trying to move towards a balance between these two. You know, you're trying to move to where, you know, you have what you need. You're not hedonistic in the sense of like, you know, just like becoming obsessed with anything material or anything sensory of this world, right? But then also you still are able to enjoy yourself, right? Like some people have like a lot of Taurus energy because they've had insane past life trauma they come in this life with, and they're here to, not to say just relax would be very simplistic, but like, it's a big karmic test for them to see if they can actually like avoid that need for constant, drama, that need for constant, like to be able to just be happy with what is. Because for some people, it's like when the waters get calm, they start to feel very anxious, So like that could be like a very difficult type of healing also, because a lot of people self-sabotage when people with trauma, when things are calm and good, that's when they freak the fuck out and self-sabotage unconsciously and do something to kind of create drama or make something happen to make them feel alive, or to shield them from like a fear of abandonment or whatever. Okay, so next is Gemini, Sag. So this one is a lot about information. But this one's very important, right? Because in life, we have, we are all little scientists. And when we are going through life and we are collecting data, right, through our little social interactions, just even on our phones, whatever, right? Like through anything in life that involves us socializing or just even getting information. Gemini represents, that curious butterfly energy that is the student of life, that collects data, that goes out and has all this raw data. So if you think about a scientific study, you have the data, and then you have you form a hypothesis, or you form a conclusion out of the raw data, right? So being too high on the Gemini side is someone who just only collects data but never ties it to a higher philosophy, which is Sagittarius. Sagittarius is Jupiter, right? So Gemini is Mercury, which is like, could be very, mental, can be very about doing this, doing that, doing this, doing that, doing this, doing that, which is really good, really important, because it's really important to get the raw data. If you don't get it, and that's one of the problems being too Sagittarius, is like just believe. It's like people who like watch certain news stations or whatever, and they just believe what they see, but they didn't go and get the raw. And it's kind of an interesting, a tough example because it's kind of hard to like, but they haven't done the research. Like they haven't really dove deep into that, So basically, like, yeah, so Gemini, you want to go and have that and have a balance between where you're still not just like being dogmatic and not just like, oh yeah, like a Sagittarius, like I learned this and I know so much that like what I know, I don't need to go test, right? It's about reality testing. But then Sagittarius Jupiter is how you take that information and, obviously there's a lot of international, like global emphasis to Sagittarius, but it's really about your true guiding life philosophies. So if you have a bunch of data that shows you that, I don't know, it could be anything, right? It could be like this country, Argentina is this, right? Like, or like I could okay, here's a good example. So I have a friend of mine who a black friend from the UK, he's Angolan, Portuguese. But anyways, we've been friends for a while, and he isn't the biggest fan of Argentina because he thinks that like it's, he's seen like racist things happen in football, right? Or like through the fans, and he thinks that's a racist country. Now, me being there, I don't just believe things like I want to see, I need to see for myself, right? So that kind of like thought, like, okay, because I see this on, whatever social media, right? That could be like the Sagittarius belief, but then the Gemini exploration would be actually going to Argentina, which I know is not possible, or talking to someone from Argentina, or being open-minded in that sense to be like, well, this is how it's shown. Let me like have intellectual flexibility and try to figure it out, try to get the actual raw data. So me being in Argentina, I can actually be there. I can talk to Argentines. I can pick people's brains, and I can try to like kind of look for it myself in different social interactions and just in general. And then I can kind of come to my own conclusion, right? That's not just based on something I heard on the internet or through media or whatever, right? Does that make sense? So it's like that for everything in life. And I think a lot of people, this is like a very important one, because a lot of people, especially in today's age with politics and with this and that, like, who's funding, I don't want to get into this, but it's like, it's like just there's a lot of kind of, I don't want to say propaganda, but there's a lot of media out there that is in a lot of ways they're like leaning in one direction, or leaning that has a bias, right? Most media has a bias, and inherent in that media having a bias is them trying to only show more of the good of one side and less of the bad of the other, right? Or more of the good of one side and more of the bad of the other, and less of the bad of the side that's showing good, and more of the bad of the other, right? So you always have to take these things with a grain of salt. And I think that when you think about Sagittarius, that's your worldview, that's your truth. So if your truth in life guides everything you do, because it's the 9th house, and then your 10th house is your dharma, your life purpose, then it means that you have to have a lot of time. You have to really go and cultivate that raw data to be sure that you're not making a mistake, that your assumptions that you're basing your whole life around are not fake, right? I'll give you an example. Like, let's say someone says that, like, okay, my 9th house, like, I believe, Sagittarius, like, my belief is that I need to make as much money as possible. That's the most important thing in life. 3rd house might be them, I don't know, even though traveling is a more 9th house Sagittarian thing, but it'd be them, like, kind of like having life experiences, going around in life. This is such an uncomfortable chair. Going around in life and kind of challenging that assumption, trying different philosophical outlooks, like seeing how other people, like asking other people, like what's important to you, what's your philosophy, right? I don't know, like, or reading different books, like kind of just like putting your heads, it's like being like the curious cat, like Gemini, like putting your head here, there, and then through these different experiences, whether they're physical travel or metaphorical travel, and once again, this is what Sagittarius is about. Just hear me with the example, because everything is about balancing. That actually, the raw data that person would have during those experiences would then maybe contribute to them being able to kind of like have more of that big picture thought and that introspection around, like, is this really true? Or is this just like what my immediate environment, because also Gemini represents the immediate environment and Sagittarius the whole world. So is this really just the conditioning of my immediate environment where I came from? Because like sometimes I'll think of Gemini as like like when it's low level Gemini and it's like too far on the Gemini scale, it's just that person's like gossiping, and it's very like low-minded stuff. It's not like Jupiter, which is about philosophy, about the big picture, about the future, about kind of like really having like a larger, and we see this with so many people. I know everyone watching this has like one or a few people in their life who like just refuses to ever think bigger or even like imagine what could be, and just lives in like such a narrow, small container of their thoughts looping over and over, because that's Gemini. Also, Mercury can be overthinking and over intellectualizing, right? Over having too much logic. So Sagittarius is like, okay, like let's relax and let's kind of see things from the top of the metaphoric summit of the mountain of life and kind of see everything for what it is, zoom out. And so like it's really the combination of those two, and how they work in everyday life. Well, it's really obvious. I kind of gave some examples. It's a lot about how we think and how we collect data, and it's like just testing our assumptions. Like, okay, I think this about this person, or I think this about this country, I think this about this, whatever it is that's happening in the world. Like, like why do I have this preconceived notion? Like, I don't know, would this one work? Like, a lot of them fall on both axes, but it's like, okay, so I don't believe that I need to eat more than one meal a day. I feel better fasting, right? I guess that's more Aquarius Leo. But yeah, the point is like going and finding information, like not just like, okay, astrology's bullshit, It would be, instead of saying astrology's bullshit, it would be like, okay, well, let me actually go, and look and try to find people who actually truly believe in it, right? And pick their brain and see if there's something there. That would be, like the reality testing, or and then if you still don't believe it, then you at least have proof. You have a real reason why. But a lot of people are too intellectually lazy to do that, and this also kind of ties in like the Pisces, Virgo, where it's like about having the intuition to believe like what's, past the non-physical, right? Okay. So next we have Cancer, Capricorn. So Cancer, Capricorn is very much about the feminine versus the masculine principle in life, right? Cancer, feminine, Capricorn, masculine. So basically it's about home and emotional nourishment, kind of how one is with themselves, like how one invests in their emotional foundations, and then dharma, life purpose, right? So I already said before that your life purpose is usually, or dharma, it's not just career, right? But it's like kind of like what you're doing, ambitions, public role, etc. Like it can be based on your worldview of like what you think is important, which comes from Sagittarius. Now, someone who, like Capricorn is also about growing up. So there's times in life where if someone's too Cancer, they might be playing victim. They might be like a lot like staying too close to home, or like feeling like afraid to like leave the nest, like metaphorically, and really like Capricorn is about like being your own metaphorical father. It's the father. It's Saturn. So it is sometimes you need to have more Capricorn in your life when you're too emotionally led, in the sense like where you're allowing like fear and emotions like that to get in the way of your like ambitions, and you need to kind of like learn grit and kind of get out there and just make things happen over time. Now, also this has a lot to do with home versus work home life balance, right? Is that the term? So in today's world, we have workaholics. I know the world is really, really tough, and for a lot of people, you almost have to be. But this one is really about like how much time are you spending at your, in your career? How much time are you spending with your family, or like creating an emotional foundation for your life that's going to nourish you? Because it's like Capricorn, you can make all the money in the world and have all the success, but like if you don't have that emotional foundation, I'm not saying that it's impossible to not love your career and your job enough. You see what I'm saying? Like, so, and this is a big problem for a lot of people, is that we live in a very Capricornian society, that prioritizes that more than Cancer. We see the movement away from families, especially, a lot of, in a lot of countries, especially the one I'm currently in, the United States, where, you have, in the old days, and still in lots of countries today, families stick together. They live in the same house. Like even in parts of Europe, if especially like a girl that's not married, like in countries like like even like Italy, Greece, whatever, Portugal, countries like that, like they'll stay living with their parents until, I don't know, until they get married, right? And that's the norm, and that should be the norm, right? Because that's like family is extremely important. Guys, I really have to. This is this chair. I hate this. I don't know how my Virgo mom likes this. But anyways, so that's what I'm saying, is that like you want to balance out, if you're too Capricorn, like you're not giving yourself enough emotional nourishment. Cancer is emotional nourishment, and it's emotional safety and happiness in a way, right? Like happiness through like, okay, it's ruled by the moon, and the moon is how we feel comfortable. It's how we feel that sense of like stability these two are very much about stability. One's about stability in a more masculine, what you're building, like type way, and your life purpose, and like kind of like your external life purpose. The other one is that same thing in the more emotional, private way. So you could be in anyone. So this is a very prominent one in everyone's life, because like who isn't in a situation where, like so many people have to work jobs they don't want to work, or have to, or like can feel very consumed by their career, right? Because you have to pay the bills and whatnot. You have kids, or just whatever, just for yourself, or everyone has a different situation, and this one's kind of tough because like someone watching this could be like, well, I have two jobs, and like if I didn't have to, if I would love to work zero, right? But I have to, unfortunately. I get it. So I think what goes kind of deeper into this on a psychological level is, like I said before, when you're being like, if you do need to kind of like grow up, if you do need to push yourself, if you do need to like get over, like, not play victim and not be sad about yourself and not let, like I said, not be overly emotionally led in a way that's negative. That's one way. But then from Capricorn to Cancer, that could be like, do you need to tender up? Do you need to become more in touch? Like, are you too with the physical realm, right? Because that's Capricorn, Saturn, the physical realm, the material realm, like too much about the logic, too much about this. And do you need to actually like therapy kind of stuff? Like, do you, or in an almost therapeutic way, is there something emotionally, energetically that you haven't let out? Because Saturn can be very restrictive. It can be very, repressive. So it's like some people are running away from something that's represented by Cancer by the moon, and they just need to they just need to allow themselves to just like do that work, do that emotional work. It could be even around family, like having a parent or a sibling or whatever, someone that you don't get along with, that really bothers you, or that you have some big raft with, So yeah. So I think like without having, because like in astrology you have the IC, which is Cancer, right, the bottom of the chart, and this is what is the foundation of the entire chart. So without having a strong inner foundation, I guess you'd say, how are you supposed to build such a strong outer legacy? So that's kind of the balance, where you would want to have, like, not that everyone has to have a family. I get it, I don't have kids, I'm 35. But, whatever home represents to you, it could be a partner, it could be a cat, it could be 3 cats, it could be friends, whatever, it could be a place, whatever that represents to you, that's, that place you can go back to and just love, just enjoy, and, but like if you're too comfortable in that cocoon like energy, then you kind of push yourself away from emerging and actually taking the steps in life that you want to. And a lot of people fall into that category. They get too comfortable, and they don't take the necessary steps to actually accomplish what they're here to accomplish on like a external world, from an external world point of view. Now, not everyone is here to become like the most famous rich businessman in the world. It's like there's different karma associated with money, with kind of going out and doing the things you need to do, right? That is very hard for us to understand from this very like capitalistic mindset. Different people have karma with money, for example, or karma with like, you're gonna work at this job, or you're gonna work in this career with these people. It's never like, there's literally magic in everything, and what modern life tries to do is it tries to kind of zap away some of that magic. So I'll talk more about that in the Pisces part. But okay, so next we have the Leo Aquarius. So Leo Aquarius is very much about it's very much about individuation, right? And in Leo, you have this sense of like, I need to be in touch with like the parts of myself, the more childish parts of myself, the more creative parts of myself, the parts of myself where I just let go and create, or just like, express myself, and then through that I understand who I am better, right? These two are the most are similar in a lot of ways, but there are differences, because Aquarius is also about that. So like, like expressing your inner weirdness, or being rebellious, or not just like believing things just because someone tells you, but also there's more of a communal element to Leo, and there's more of a personal element, or a communal element to Aquarius, and more of a personal level to Leo. So this one is really like in everyone's life, because we live in a society where, a lot of people wear the same things, people follow trends, this and that. And Leo and Aquarius, the axis is about individuation. It's about, or even like, let's say it's in respect to like what you're trying to do with your life, right? Well, how do you actually know what you want to do if you don't know who you are and what you're passionate about? So Leo is about passion. So it's about when I go and Gemini kind of goes with this too, right? By trying different things and experimenting on different things that just make me happy. Like a child, children are ruled by Leo because children just do, they just have fun, they just laugh, they play. That's Leo pure energy. And when you're in that state of play, that's actually when you're in your highest state of creativity, and that's when you can actually find your passions. You know, that's when you're like, wow, this is really, really fun. And, you know, from that, then Aquarius is about how you take that and, you know, you are basically finding other people who are like-minded to you that you can connect with. But Leo is the actual process of going and doing it for yourself to figure out, because like if you're too Aquarius, you could be someone who's too groupthinky, right? Who's too like following the group and maybe afraid to break away from that. Or you could be the opposite, the extreme, which is like someone who's like super like hardcore rebellious, like not willing, you know, super into like almost like pushing people away by not, you know, like whatever the rebellious of the two options is, you do it, right? But yeah, I feel like there's a point, like Leo is about the me and Aquarius is about the we. So in some people's life, you have to, you know, you have to kind of step away from the community. You have to kind of step away into your own energy and ask yourself, like, what's mine, what's theirs, you know? And that can be coming off as selfish in some ways, right? But some people have been so unselfish in past lives. Like I see that a lot with Leo, with South Node and Aquarius, different charts like that, which I kind of compile everything and it leads me to similar conclusions with a lot of people with that, where it's like, you know, it's time for you to step into the spotlight. It's time for you to not just give. But a lot of times they're very scared to have the praise, and they still want to do all the good things, but they want to stay more in the back, you know? While Leo South Node is like very comfortable with putting themselves out there, whether it's like, you know, in front of a camera or, you know, in any kind of leadership positions. But really, it's like that fire energy Leo is that fixed energy of you know, of being able to start something, but also follow through. And, you know, when it's related to creative expression, it's also related to creativity. It's also related to love. So it's really a lot about identity, you know, and how you kind of have to like throw some darts at the wall metaphorically to trial and error a little bit, go through some trial and error to sort of see, you know, and this is why Leo sextiles Gemini, right? Because they're both very much, you know, they're different, but they get along in this way where it's about like Gemini is about experimentation in one way and Leo in another, right? Where, you know, through you being in touch with your inner child energy, you're more likely to kind of come into a real sense of zest for life, you know? And then, you know, the creative element also is not necessarily like everyone has like it's like, okay, like how can I go and how can I understand myself better through what I'm writing? Like, writing is more Gemini, but like, you know, in this context, right? Like, let's say like I want to create something not for the sake of just popularity, Leo, but for the, you know, low Leo, but for the sake of like through the creativity, I'm understanding who I am better. How can I let go of different ways, like different blocks in myself? You know, like in what ways am I following society's rules too much? Am I allowing, you know, maybe my family or cultural programming to tell me how I should be and how I should not be? So yeah, like sometimes it's okay to be seen, you know, and to have the spotlight per se, right? It's not like you have to always run away from that. And for certain people, they have to like I said, it could be leadership roles, it could be stepping up, and it can be uncomfortable, but can actually lead to confidence, because Leo is confidence, right? So sometimes in order to get that, you have to kind of step out from, you know, you have to step into, not out of anything necessarily, you have to step into a style of life, which could be, you know, which if you go to Aquarius and balancing the two out, it's like, okay, well, I want to have the people around me also who I can be super authentic around, you know, who understand freedom, because like, you know, Aquarius is about freedom, right? Aquarius is about absolute freedom, autonomy, individualism, right? So both of these are. So the goal with this axis is to understand who you are away from, unrelated to societal conditioning, right? So I think most people can kind of think about that in different areas of your life, right? Okay, a lot of people like to talk about relationships. Why do people have to sleep in the same room? Like why is that a rule? Why do we have to follow like this this script that has led to 70% divorce rate? Aquarius is about freedom. It's about, I want to have my own space. I want to still have my own life, right? And Leo is about, is very much about passion and fun. But Aquarius, if you're looking at a relationship from that axis, and I'm going to do an example at the end. Maybe I'll think of a situation and kind of examine it from every axis. But yeah, so Leo is really about, or Aquarius is really about like how to kind of think about, like finding like-minded people, right? But also about contributing to the collective and obviously like the whole humanitarian element of it also. But yeah, it's also very much about the individual self, right? You see Aquarian people, Uranian people, they don't follow the rules. They beat their own drum. Now, there are people who need to kind of like do better at authenticity around other people, like sometimes their friends are based too much around social premises or social, who they think is going to make them look better to be friends with. So Aquarius is like, find the, friends, the community, people who are, who really spark that true individuality within you. But if you have never found that true individuality, you need to go to Leo and do, through that kind of inner child energy, and being around people where that just kind of comes out freely, where you feel like anything is possible when you're around those people, where you can feel like your goofy child self around those people, not like you have to like be some version of yourself that is boring or that isn't authentic, right? Because that's what this is all about, authenticity. But yeah, the axis itself, like the balance, is individuality versus community. So you could think of a lot of situations where, sometimes you need to, not be selfish. You need to like involve, like you need to like think about like the good of the planet, the good of the people. Like that's a big thing with Aquarius is like, it's for the good of humanity. While Leo sometimes can be self-centered on some level, on a low vibe, right? So it's like I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for the we. You'll see that a lot with people with like a lot of Leo karma, that they're trying to be more Aquarius, that they kind of get blocked when they're doing things that are more ego based, but when they doing things that are more Uranus, based on the collective kind of gain, that they actually kind of get rewarded for that. And I think another thing with this one is like how sometimes people will share their gift and not share their gift with the world, right? It could be anything. It could be like a creative gift. So it's like, you could find that creative gift in Leo. It's like, okay, me, like when I'm doing this video right now, like I could easily like say like, what, I don't want to like share this stuff. Like people should sign up for classes with me. My YouTube isn't even doing like crazy, not that I expected it to move like to do very well fast or anything like that. But, this is stuff that like I talk about in some versions in my one-on-one classes that anyone's able to take. If you message me any level, I can teach you how to become an amazing astrologer at whatever pace you want to go. But yeah, like it's just interesting, right? But like then I think like, yeah, so it's like, am I shining for myself or am I contributing to the collective? Yeah, so that one makes sense. So okay, maybe the most important one. Well, they're all important. Hold on. Virgo Pisces. This is the one I talk about the most, at least. So Virgo Pisces is the mind Virgo, order Virgo versus Neptune. So Mercury Virgo, right? The mind, everyday life worries, but also like the step-by-step it takes, the material world, versus Neptune, complete spiritual surrender, right? Oh wait, I didn't do this right. Hold on. Yeah. So this one is extremely important. Hold on. So this one is extremely important because it comes up all the time. And basically, like, when you're going through life, you have to just surrender, you know? Like, there's so many things. You could have the best thing happen to you and still overanalyze it to a point where you destroy it. We go through life and things happen, and we go through really challenging times, and throughout our lives, I always say there's 1,000 reasons every day that you could worry about something, right? Or you could just surrender and remember a time where you had that same worry or same level of, you're worried about something very, very similar, and God just had your back. The universe just had your back. It just worked out. So Pisces is that, like, just surrendering and just trusting and just trusting the universe, like being in touch with the oneness, Virgo. So I'm giving like how to, if you're too Virgo and you need to like have some Pisces. That's how it is for a lot of people. You can over intellectualize something, and what that does is it kind of creates this rigid structure that keeps you away from experiencing that oneness, that feeling of oneness that you have, like when you just let go and you're not just like thinking about all like you're not just like zooming in on all these little things. You're just seeing, like, feeling like the entire wholeness of everything, and also the great mystery, the fact that there's so much we don't know. And Virgo also is about Mercury trying to figure everything out with logic, while Pisces is about Neptune, which is just using your third eye, your crown, whatever, is basically intuiting that just because I can't logically, through the scientific method that's currently available to us, prove that this is correct, I can feel that's correct. I can intuit that's correct, right? So that's really a big part of that. Now Virgo, now let me flip it backwards though. If you're too Pisces, you're going to be someone who might be delusional, who might be escapist, who might be like almost, I don't have to work hard, God's got me, like that kind of thing. Virgo, someone in that type of situation who's too Pisces, not Virgo, would need to kind of like understand, okay, well, I need to take care of my body. I need to have somewhat of a routine day to day to get to make anything happen. Because Pisces is also advanced creativity and spirituality, but a lot of times they can lack self-esteem and lack direction, right? It's Neptune, so things can feel very cloudy, and they can easily get thrown off their path, extremely sensitive. So Virgo is also like about that continuity, day after day, routine, like, and knowing that, like, if the dream is Pisces, Virgo is the routine, the day-by-day routine that it takes to get there, right? But if you ignore the Virgo routine, well, guess what? It's not good, is it? Because it reminds me of a guy I used to know who he had South Node in Pisces, and he just was so sure that God was just going to bless him, with what he was doing, and without having to work at all. Like, the guy did not work at all, and he was completely delusional, right? This is someone who screwed me over, who I used to be friends with, right? But like, so this guy, like, he was talented, right? Pisces, talented, and he definitely had potential, but he had zero work ethic. He had zero sense of like self, in a way. Like, not sense of self. He had zero sense of like, I owe this to myself, self-discipline, like actual Mercury brain. Like, not that he was stupid, I'm just saying, like, the actual part of you that says, okay, I should wake up at this time, or if I'm gonna go to bed late, I should even have, like, because, I go to bed really late, but like, or not as late as I used to, but like, I still get my shit done, I still kind of wake up early when I have to work, but yeah, so being too Pisces can make someone like reckless and yeah, they start to just really fall into escapism, whether it's drugs, alcohol, or just like, even video games or whatever it is. Like they can kind of like want to repress the actual present moment, or kind of just Kiko, come here. Yeah. So I think like the very analytical part of Virgo can be good, but also it can be bad, because it can be good when it's like in a situation like this, like, okay, your life is falling apart, like analyze how you can make this work. Like, what do I need to do? Okay, I need to wake up at this time. I need to go to the gym, get my life back in order, like physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, all that stuff, right? But then when you're too far in that's when you start creating problems that aren't even there. So I'm going to give my big example about like a romantic situation. Not any in particular. I'm just going to like kind of like make one up, right? But like, Pisces being like imagination is like also like I said, like it's allowing yourself to dream. Some people don't allow themselves to dream and a dream of a better reality. So it's like it's like being able to experience the magic of life, right? That's Pisces. And Virgo, there's a lot of beauty, and Virgo isn't just this nerdy fucking like rigid sign. Like it's the opposite of Pisces. So sometimes Virgos, you meet them, they're even more Pisces than certain Pisces, right? But it's about perfection too. And what happens with Virgos, sometimes when they can't get that perfection, they become very self-critical, right? And that takes away from that Piscean, Neptunian connection to the oneness, right? Because none of us are perfect. It's impossibly perfect. Perfectionism is like, this, like it's the mental sickness of this time, right? Like, because it's like, we are taught to think in black and white. We are taught to think that, if I can't get 100, if I get 98, black and white thinking, like it's like I got 0, right? Or not necessarily taught that, but some people are like that. Such high standards to themselves, it's almost like an OCD of, and so in that situation, let's say it has to do with school, it has to do with work. The Virgo person like gets a 98%. They're the best in their class. They're doing so much work. They're taking every single little note. Like they're asking all the questions in class. They've never missed a class. That's amazing. Like they're going to succeed, right? But then they get like a 98 or 96 and they freak out, or 92, they freak out. This is the lowest grade they've ever gotten, and it makes them feel like shit. And then the Pisces, the person who's like Pisces is like, barely showing up to class, kind of just like, nah, what's the point of this, right? Which isn't good either. Or I'm not saying that's good, but then like, the final comes, they kind of, just pass the class, but then, maybe they go to some of the, they went to some of the lectures and they just kind of listened instead of taking like obsessive notes, right? Maybe it was an astronomy class, I don't know. And maybe like when they're just kind of sitting back and listening, they started getting like having downloads, or they started like feeling more of the big picture, I guess, right? Because like, it is Neptune, but it's also co-ruled by Jupiter. They started to actually like feel more of the essence of what the teacher was speaking about. So even though their grade, let's say they got a C in the class, and let's say for this example, they actually show up in class, but they weren't like crazy, like, taking notes nonstop. It gave them an idea of the totality of the message, right? And they're able to take that. So it's not like one's better than the other. Obviously, you want to have a good mix of both. Like, you don't want to be someone who's doing that Virgo thing I was just talking about, because then, usually you probably, some people have good memories, but it doesn't stick to you, right? So it's like, how can you, in that type of situation in life, still be still be structured, but still also, it's like you do the best you can, and then you just let go of it and trust God for the rest. Okay, there's way more I could say about that, but so I'm going to try an example. Obviously none of this is planned, everything I make up on the way, but yeah, so let's say like a life situation. So let's say there's a love situation. We're going to look at all six axes, right? So like it's a romantic situation, Aries, Libra, obvious, right? It's like, is the person, is it more codependent, or is the person having enough, like, okay, so let's just I'm gonna say me, but I'm not talking for myself. So it's like Aries, Libra, okay, looking at a relationship, okay, is it too codependent, or am I still having enough like of my own dynamic life force, life energy? Am I still kind of taking taking that fire energy into my life and being a leader and kind of doing the shit I want to do, and kind of keeping in, not just like, but then at the same time, okay, but am I compromising enough for the relationship? Am I sometimes doing things that like aren't my favorite things to do, but because they make the other person happy? Okay, I see. So balance is kind of doing both. Okay, got it. Okay. In like a career situation, Aries Libra would be like, am I being too people pleasing? Am I not letting myself be hurt enough? Or am I being too? Actually, I'm not gonna do this. You get. Am I being entrepreneurial and taking a stand and moving forward enough? Or am I being too, like finding the balance between like being diplomatic and kind of like talking to people and not being too abrasive, right? Would be Aries. Okay, I'm just gonna do this the romantic one. So then Taurus, Scorpio. It's like, okay, am I allowing the deeper element of this relationship to take over? Like Taurus, okay, is there stability in this relationship? Like, does this make me feel like happy? Does this person bring me peace? Does the relationship bring me peace? But also, am I in this relationship that is kind of holding me back from Scorpio, right? From the emotional, like, is this shielding me from the spiritual, emotional growth that I need to have, right? And then also, like, the other way, is this relationship too, like, is there like unnecessary drama in this relationship that's kind of keeping me away from that peace that I want to feel in my everyday life? And am I engaging in that? Am I running away from other relationships that have that peace because like the drama, or like the drama and the intense breakups and all that stuff, and getting back together, that's more exciting? I don't know. I'm thinking as I go, guys. But yeah, am I really allowing myself to be vulnerable? 8th house of vulnerability. Am I really allowing myself to be vulnerable, Scorpio, and speak about a lot of things that might not be comfortable, Taurus, to speak about? You see, am I willing to kind of open up in ways like, so this is kind of how it works, right? You can go, there's so many different directions you can go with this. Gemini, Sagittarius. Okay. Facts versus meaning, student versus teacher. Like, do I have a preconceived notion of this person that's based off of like my own, and this could go in the category of Neptune, Virgo too, right? But like, that's based off of like my own research of this person. Have I, like, basically, like, did I, like, am I moving too fast in the sense that I have my idea of who this person is and how we are together, Sagittarius, like my belief around, and what they represent in my life and the big picture and where it's going and the potential? Or do I need to have more Gemini experiences with them and try, and be around them more and go through different life experiences and collect more data before I create this larger truth about who they are, etc. And then, also philosophically, are we having enough conversation? Like, are we philosophically aligned enough? Like, do we have Gemini? Do we have good actual base communication? Like, can we communicate well, right? That's more of a different level of it, right? What's the vision of this relationship? Like, do we have a shared vision for life, or for where we want to see these things going? Or is it just kind of like a Gemini day to day, kind of like doing fun things together, doing, but never really talking or seeing like a bigger picture, So yeah. Okay, next. So Cancer, Capricorn, that was probably I imagine pretty easy. It's like, okay, this relationship, if I'm looking at it from this perspective, does it help me when I'm creating these two different foundations in my life? Does this person feel like a metaphorical home to me? Cancer. Are my emotional needs met by this person? Do they bring me that sense of peace, but also fulfillment, and also just feel like I can live with them, feel like I can be around them, and not feel like stressed or not feel over, like feel good, like feel how I want to feel. And then also Capricorn, do I feel like I can really build an empire with this person? Do I feel like I can really, like, they can be the person that's gonna add to my life when it comes to my career, when it comes to my success overall, right? And I forgot to say, guys. Well, actually, Yeah. So then Leo, Aquarius, it's like, you know, it kind of goes with Gemini, Sag also with the mental one. Can I laugh at this person? You know, am I able to be, to just be my child self, Leo, around this person to where I can like really feel at home? More, I keep saying home, but like where I can really be myself. And then Aquarius, you know, like do we have, you know, like it's just that these two are more similar. Like I said, you know, like do I become more of a version of my core child self, you know, the who I am on the deepest, purest level, you know, like when it's just like how you are, like when it, like with those few people in the world, like a lot of people, it's like only a few people that can truly be themselves around, you know, like a lot of people like haven't ever been like their true selves around anyone besides like a few family members and maybe like one partner, I don't know, right? So it's like, you know, can I be like, do we have fun together? Do we have good, you know, Leo, do we have good romance? Do we have good, you know, do we admire each other? You know, does she have, you know, like both ways, right? Is it fun? Really? Like, does it make me feel alive? Does it make me feel, you know, does it make me feel happy? Really? Like, you know, like, do we have shared passions? All that kind of stuff. Aquarius, and then it's like, so like looking at the relationship from that perspective, it's like, okay, like, and are we able to kind of roll in the same communities, you know, or like have shared kind of humanitarian or like goals, like larger life goals, you know, like large life goals, and do we align on like on kind of that level too? So like, you know, some relationships, for example, it's like you feel like you might feel amazing with that person one-on-one, but then like you can't really be around friends with them for whatever reason, you know, or you guys just like have very different societal views. I guess that could kind of fall in line with like the Sagittarius also, but you get the point. Okay, next, finally, with Virgo Pisces, it's like, okay, am I over analyzing? Am I just letting this? Am I surrendering to like, okay, I've done what I needed to do. I show myself in the best light. I've done all the other ones, but am I now allowing God and the universe, whatever you want to call it, to kind of, am I surrendering enough to allowing what I can't control to happen however it does? You know, ultimately, there's a lot we can't control, and Pisces deals, like I said, with that surrender, right? So it's like, am I overthinking about this person? Like when I'm not with them, am I overthinking it? Am I ruminating? Am I becoming obsessed and worrying and creating all these like these storylines that are taking away from all my other life energy in other areas, right? Yeah. So am I allowing myself to sit with God and to know that I'm not putting any other human above that, right? Above, you know, am I able to understand the synchronicities that happen in life, you know, and understand that there's a lot of fate that happens and we can't control it, you know, and people are meant to meet at certain periods of their life and sometimes meant to move away from each other at certain periods, you know. Let me think a little bit more about this. So let's say like someone got ghosted, right? I'm thinking about random things people go through, right? Like it's just like any problem someone could have, right? They got ghosted. It's like, okay, like how would you look at this, right? You'd be like, okay, well, which one would you look at? You have a lot. You could be like, okay, well, shit, like Virgo Pisces, you know, like. I guess I'm sorry. I start with that. I start with that example, but like my brain is like running out of gas at this point. I don't even know like what I would say. I need to think. Let me think about it for a sec. I literally don't plan any of these videos. If you guys didn't know, like I just like start talking. So it actually would be good for me to like have little breaks in the video at some point. But yeah, so. The point is that with most things happening in life, it's not that you have to apply all 6 to everything. but you can usually look at a certain axis, and by understanding them on a deep level, you can apply them to your life, right? And you can apply them to all situations, pretty much, right? And it gives you a philosophical. It's almost like it's almost like how I use astrology as a philosophy, you know, and as almost like a, not like a rule book, but I think of things in terms of the axes, you know. So once again, it's not about having these signs or not. Like, yes, this will come up a lot, but you'll see in life that a lot of things happen and a lot of wisdom can come. Like, you know, you're freaking out about something and you're worrying, but it's like, remember Virgo, Pisces, remember all those times, and you start cataloging in your own head times where you like, remember that, like, in a certain situation, this axis, and then you're like, oh shit, but everything was all good. Like me, like, you know, like I was in recent months had a lot of worries about how certain details would work out, and it's not like they're all resolved yet, but things just kind of happen in a way that I could have never, ever, ever predicted, you know? Like the last month has been like I knew that my astrology was going to get better, so that's kind of like also part of, like, you know, like I was going through horrible transits, and I knew that you know, my Neptune and Saturn transits that were hitting everything in my chart pretty much were going to end, and I was going to have my Jupiter return at the end of June, start of July. And I knew something good stuff was going to happen, and it has, right? But I could have never predicted what. And then even when something good like that does happen, you still don't know if it will, you know, like if you never know the meaning, you know, like some things are meant to last for a long time. Some things are meant to just happen fast. You know, my point is, like, you just gotta enjoy the present, and that's like Taurus, Scorpio, right? Instead of me psychoanalyzing everything, I can kind of just like be balanced with, you know, going on a walk with my dog. Is he right here? Right away. With my dog Kiko after this video, you know, and just enjoying having my mom's house to myself for a week, you know, because she's in Europe, I'm pet sitting, like, you know, just in this beautiful part of California. So that's Taurus, is like the present moment, right? And instead of, like, you know, and that's also Pisces, the present moment, or like feeling into like the like when you meditate and you just feel into like the Neptunian realm of like timelessness, you know, and you realize like all my small anxieties that I thought of that were so big in that moment, well, they're like literally like they don't matter. And a week from now, you're not gonna remember you even had that anxiety, you know? It doesn't fucking matter. So you might as well just and that's another thing is like, I'm trying to think what axis that would fall in. Yeah, like with anything, like I think the Gemini Sagittarius one is huge. Like you could always get more information before coming to a conclusion. And it's sometimes the most intelligent, wise people are the people who are happy when they're wrong, because that just gets them close to the truth, or they're super content with being wrong because they're not insecure. Their ego isn't based on what they know and their opinions, and they're willing to be wrong about shit, you know? So, or about things, excuse me. But yeah, let me think of final thoughts of like anything that comes up. But yeah, like I said, like Virgo Pisces is really like the everyday brain that we need, you know, that Virgo brain, that everyday mind that we need for all our tasks in this modern world, versus that spiritual brain, non-brain. It's just that you know, when you're sleeping, Neptune rules sleep, rules, you know, altered states, you know, higher states of consciousness, like after like a huge hike or whatever makes you feel good, like naturally good, you know, that is when you're more in the Neptunian realm after a big workout, right? So speaking of that, I need to go walk my dog, but yeah, I hope you guys like this one. And let me know, anyone who wants to get a reading with me. We can do a live reading. We can do, I have a lot of openings in the next, I've been very busy, but now I'm finally not busy. So a lot of openings next week, the week after. I literally have, you know, I have a good amount of openings for those, even further ahead, you know? Like I've just been very busy with life stuff, but now I'm good. So hope you guys enjoy. I hope that this video actually gets shown to people, because the last few haven't. Please appreciate anyone who likes, subscribes, all that stuff. Means a lot. And much love. Bye guys. Ciao.